all things considered, that was a pretty cozy episode. A calm before the storm. Episode 6 of Season 2/Episode 13 of Interview with the Vampire, in which in the Paris timeline, Louis feels like he's at the height of his powers. Madeline at long last becomes a full-fledged companion to Claudia, and the Coven gives our main cast the side eye as they conspire behind their backs. And so Armand chooses to betray, just as we're all feeling so good. Back in 2022, Armand tries to find some forgiveness, including addressing what happened in San Francisco, dropping a little bit of some extra truth, supposedly. Let's break down this episode. Here comes the spoilers. Here we go. Oh, here they're talking about their relationship through the guise of an art conversation, how to decorate the walls. Wait for Revelation to enter the room, he says, so Armand can decide to open up and talk about San Francisco, because they left us at that cliffhanger last time, and I thought we were going to start right there, but no. Apparently they changed the subject. They didn't really talk about it. Louis is also concerned that there's been some memory erasure for the Paris incident as well. But it's coming up. It's coming up soon-ish. It's lunchtime again. This time, though, Rashid is chaperoning. I guess Armand is getting suspicious, extra cautious now. Is he concerned that Daniel is collaborating with others? Does he even know about the existence of the Telemasca? I would think he would at this point, right? But our Telemasca agent reappears. He's here pretty much offering help to publish this book of the interview he's doing, because he warns that other publishers won't let the book see the light of day. But the most revelatory thing about this scene is that Rashid seems to be working with the Telemasca. Agent Rashid. I guess this Telemasca organization is real good at what they do. Maybe Rashid is just an informant, maybe he's not super duper in the nitty gritty of the Telemasca. So they're working on a new play. Looks familiar, doesn't it? Enduring for Guido. Kind of sounds like Waiting for Godot, because this is definitely the predecessor to that play by Samuel Beckett, the classic play favored by existentialists. But what the show proposes is that the first draft of that play was about vampires, actually, because Samuel Beckett's a vampire. Here he's credited as Samuel Barclay, which, get this, Barclay is Beckett's middle name. Look at that. So yeah, Samuel Beckett has been here this whole time. This is the second appearance of a famous playwright. We saw Jean-Paul Sartre a few episodes ago. He might have been a vampire too. Maybe all the great artists are secretly vampires. You never know. Keep an eye out for fangs. Anyway, Santiago is leading the Coven behind Armand's back. He's shared the diary that he took from Claudia to the rest of the cast. You can see them reading it right here while she's working away, cleaning up. Armand is completely oblivious at this point of all the machinations. He's lost in love is his excuse. In the middle of rehearsal, Santiago uses telepathic powers to communicate to Estelle and Celeste, who are at the bank asking for info regarding Lestat Liancourt's whereabouts. He's persuaded to tell them the last time he made contact with Lestat, which was about 9 years ago. Presumably they get more info on how to contact him, but we don't quite see that here. And here comes the title of the episode, a line from this play. He says he was illuminated by the light, but a kind of light before light was created by God. Because he's a vampire, obviously, once God created light, that would vanquish the vampires, right? I guess maybe this line indicates that he feels kind of like a sort of abomination as a vampire, created before there was light, perhaps an unfinished or discarded creation that wasn't meant to continue to go on, and yet he's still here living eternally. For what purpose? He doesn't quite know. So I think Santiago is going to take inspiration here and define his own purpose by leading the Coven. I don't know, what are your thoughts? Let me know. Back in the present timeline, Armand gets suspicious again about Daniel, wonders if he spoke to anybody when he went out for lunch. Rashid covers it all up, he's working for Telemasca, of course, obviously. But also Louis is a bit annoyed by this questioning. I think he feels it's unnecessary, and also he's in a resentful mood towards Armand ever since the San Francisco episode. Daniel points out that Claudia's diaries have run out, so from here on forward, everything's only backed up by their memories. Now I gotta commend Emma Freeman, the director of this episode and the next one. because I think this is one of the better looking episodes. I mean, they're all great, but there's something about this one. In particular, this scene right here, I think just the framing, the blocking, the overall direction of it all just looks real good. It's a pretty intense horror scene, a home invasion, where Madeline has finally had enough with these drunkards who paint the swastikas on her windows. She actually throws the iron through the window at them. Didn't see that coming, and she didn't expect them to come in. All the while her neighbors don't care, of course. They've always treated her like a scourge of the neighborhood. Quite sad seeing this woman not care for Madeline's screams. But Madeline has a vampire rescuer. Across the streets, the lights turn off. Presumably Claudia has attacked that neighbor first. Then she comes in here, throws a door at this one, and pulls that one off Madeline. You can actually see the stunt person pull the guy off right here. He's probably attached to a wire too, but it's pretty quick. And with all her aggressors dead or bleeding to death, she discovers that Claudia is in fact a vampire. Real great work from Delaney here. She's really chilling here. She's all stoic about it, of course, but there's some sadness, there's some empathy in her eyes towards Madeline. They're inseparable now. Back in the theater, cool Louis arrives asking for Armand, not noticing everybody looking at him weird. He's left behind his photographing and has gone all in on the art dealing. He's gonna be the first vampire capitalist, Armand says. Though I don't know about that. Aren't all capitalists vampires? I mean, they do extract the value of others for their sole benefit. That's a vampire, right? Louis definitely likes the top position. He commands Armand to get in the coffin for a good lay. We're gonna have to use our imaginations for the kinky details, though. This guy's thinking about it. So now Madeline's getting to know Claudia through her diaries. Claudia's found her perfect companion. She just needs to convince Louis to convince Armand to make her into a vampire. And she does a pretty good job of convincing Louis here, who's angry but eventually agrees to talk to Armand. You know, Louis had Lestat, now he has Armand. She wants a companion too. And Madeline is completely willing too. It's all consensual. Obviously Madeline has felt ostracized from her community for so long. Having just survived a brutal attack, she welcomes starting anew as a vampire. She's fully informed, unlike Claudia, who had no say in it really, right? Claudia was turned closer to adulthood, much closer to adulthood than in the books or in the movie. And she is played by an adult actress, which makes this pairing between them potentially more romantic. Louis even asks if this is romantic, to which they say no. Then Madeline says, not yet. It's a reasonable answer. Let's keep in mind that this is a fantasy show. Claudia is technically older than Madeline at this point, and it's not like she's in a young child's body like in the movie or book. But I get why the showrunners didn't want to go too deep into the romantic angle here. I do think how the relationship is portrayed here in this series is well done. Though it would be nice to see a lesbian romance in the series, perhaps in later seasons. So they try to convince Armand to do the deed. Of course, he's very much reluctant to do it. He at least wants to question Madeline first. You know, is she prepared to survive an eternity? Is she prepared to lose the world she grew up in as she ages out of an era? And she responds to each question with confident answers. She already feels like she's a monster in this world. She's a survivor, she survived a war, and she even disagrees that Claudia's gonna commit suicide and madness in a few decades, telling Armand something he probably didn't consider, that perhaps a companionship with Madeline is what Claudia needs to survive. Armand still says no. He's never created a vampire, actually. It's something that disgusts him, I guess. So Claudia's gonna have to look elsewhere. In the meantime, back at the vampire theater, they continue to rehearse the new Beckett play, and Santiago starts to assert his dominance, really putting on another type of show on stage, as he tries to diminish Armand and make him look weak. He insults Sam's play for show, though telepathically to Sam he admits that he loves his work. I mean, Sam was in on the whole faux display too. It's all part of a bigger plan. Hidden behind the front pages there was other crimes a brewing. Santiago's vampire gang stole a telescopic lens, as well as some film stock. Are they gonna shoot a movie? Or are they going to use that lens to burn something, and maybe the film can be used as kindling? A combination of the two? I guess I'm thinking of Inglourious Bastard, where they use film stock to burn a theater. I mean, there is a theater fire coming up, as we saw in a newspaper article a couple episodes ago. Well, they're certainly setting the stage for something, literally. By what we see at the end of the episode, we at least know they're having a trial on stage. But those are some bits and pieces we can put together in our little noggins and try to figure out what the climax of the season is going to be all about. But I don't want to speculate too much. I'd rather just watch and see what happens. Anyway, Louis and Armand are having another late night stroll. Louis is settling into his Dommy Daddy era, telling Armand that he's going to go ahead and turn Madeline into a vampire since Claudia has no other option, and asks Armand to come and witness the ritual. Armand is worried about how it will turn out and how the coven will respond. He tells Louis not to even tell him these things because it's hard for him to keep his mind shut these days. I guess because all these kisses are melting his brain a little bit. But Armand questions if this is an order or an ask. Goes against his long-held beliefs as a long-time master of the vampires in Paris. But Louis is like, it's fine, and asks Armand to make sure they're not interrupted. So here Louis feels like he's at the top of the world. Nothing can harm him. Everything's gonna be just peachy. While I think here Armand is realizing that there's no reining in Louis. There's no convincing him. And maybe he was pretending to be a little bit vulnerable, playing the role of the submissive, playing the role of the powerless, when in fact he's gonna work with the coven. Now in the present he said he's a coward for siding with the coven, so maybe you can choose to believe him, and maybe I do, I don't know. But I think this might be the moment he decides to betray Louis, whether it's because of cowardice or because he's manipulating Louis to protect himself and maybe Louis in the long run. Let the ritual begin. Now, isn't this the nicest creation of a vampire you've seen? With Madeline looking up to the light like that, it kind of gives like Operation vibes. Her companion Claudia's by her side, making sure she's all calm and relaxed. Louis gets some visions when she bites in, sees her past, sees her tryst with the soldier, her family life, the sister that died, her being abused by a mob, a mix of beauty and horror, such as life. But he also sees Claudia in a brand new light through Madeline's eyes. And that's when he understood that, yeah, Madeline is going to be a much better companion to Claudia than he ever was. And with that, Louis feels like he's ascended. He's another tier vampire now, a vampire who has sired another. He contemplates how he can feel Madeline from afar. He's in a bit of a daze here. And after Claudia and Madeline leave town, he reflects on how he doesn't really care. Not that big of a loss as he thought. But with all that blood loss, I think he's just a bit in shock. But Armand suggests he'll have some emotions later on, and that Claudia is still worth having in his life. And he's here with a suitcase. He packed up. He's left the coven, apparently. That's what he's telling Louis right here, that he could have fought them. He's not quite sure if there's going to be any retaliation, but he chose to be with Louis instead of stay with the coven, who are surely going to turn on Louis when they find out he gave the dark gift to Madeline. It's a sweet scene. Maybe too sweet. Back in the present, Louis questions if that's really how it all went down, suggesting that the memory was tampered with. And at last we finally get Armand's response to the San Francisco incident. He reveals that Louis asked him to erase that memory. Apparently, Louis didn't want to remember that he committed suicide. I guess that's a good explanation, but Daniel does not believe it. He thinks Armand is up to something. Louis is skeptical too, feeling like he would never ask to have his memory erased like that. Armand tries to defend himself further, saying that some of the pages he tore out of Claudia's diary was to protect himself from Daniel because he didn't want to reveal his cowardice to Daniel. He says that he spent the rest of his life trying to make up for the mistakes he did in Paris. And Louis did forgive him because he's currently with him, but because of the interview, the resentment is building up again. And whether you're more on Louis or Armand's side is kind of up to the audience right now. Though, if we go back to the opening scene, the Talamasca agent told Daniel that he should be fearing Louis, not Armand. He's the more dangerous one. So maybe framing Armand as the bad one, the one who erases memories, is all distraction, and really Louis is hiding something. Maybe Louis has some sinister motivations or inclinations. Now here's some speculation on my part. What if Louis did something so bad, so horrible in Paris? Maybe he was complicit in Claudia's suffering. Maybe he did something so heinous that he wanted that memory erased. And maybe that was the first time he asked Armand to erase a memory. And maybe that guilt resurfaced in San Francisco, which led him to try to commit suicide. And then again he asked Armand to erase those memories again. And this whole time, yeah, maybe Armand has been a little bit manipulative, but he's been doing all this, including erasing Louis' memories, to protect Louis from himself. That's just a speculation. I'm not a Vampire Chronicles scholar. But so far the show isn't giving a clear indication on what side the audience should be on, and maybe there really isn't a good side. It's not going to be as simple as good versus evil. We are dealing with some messy vampires here. Anyway, Armand offers a soft apology to Daniel for torturing him, saying that it wasn't as bad as all the drugs he took. He still has a sharp mind, better than most humans. And again, Armand reaffirms that yes, Louis asked him to erase that memory of him. And I think Louis is starting to believe Armand here. And then Armand wants to continue with his cowardice in Paris. So let's go back there, huh? And so here we are at the final scene, in which Claudia and Madeline return to Paris after being abroad for some time, living their best vampire lives. They catch up with Louis and Armand, who are also having a good time. It's a cozy, lovely, beautiful scene between friends. Can't we just live in here for a little longer? What if AMC made a spin-off of this squad? Like a sitcom, where like each episode begins with them just coming here and chit-chatting with some drinks. So this seems like a hit place. Probably a safe space for some of the marginalized, like vampires. And I think you can make out some lesbians in the background, and other queers and artist types. Anyway, the Madeline talks about how she can feel Louis because he's her maker. She can feel that he loves Claudia, he loves Armand. There's love all around. He just doesn't say it enough. Louis, you gotta open up a bit when it comes to your feelings. You never know what could happen tomorrow or in a few minutes. Armand takes a little bit of a breather, and we realize that he didn't choose Louis, he chose the Coven. Because according to him, he was a coward. He was scared that they were gonna, I guess, kill him. And time freezes, and we get the most devastating moment. The calm has ended. Here comes the vampire storm. Now, back in the present, is Armand putting on a show here? Does he really feel all this guilt? Maybe, yeah, I think so. Santiago and crew arrive and kidnap the Happy Three. There goes the good vibes. It's time for some theatrics, because the vampires are putting on a trial on stage for one night only. I think the oblivious audience is going to decide whether they're guilty or not. I can see them cheer already. Guilty, guilty. Filthy animals, he calls them. Louis and Claudia get to be on stage together for the crimes of killing their master, creating a new vampire, and also making Claudia a vampire. And then comes the big reveal. Lestat is back for the trial of the century. He doesn't seem too happy, but I think he's gonna perk up when he gets to see Louis and Claudia's face on stage. This trial's gonna be wild. It's gonna be of epic proportions. What a tease, AMC. We gotta wait another week. But yeah, that was a good episode. A bittersweet one that gave us some hope before it was snatched away. For a while there, I thought they weren't gonna address the San Francisco incident, but it did come up during the end there a bit. Do you believe in Armand? Is Louis completely innocent here? What's gonna happen? How is it gonna be different from the books, the movie? I mean, there wasn't a trial in the books or the movie. It's a brand new take, and that's exciting. Anything can happen, anything. But I imagine it's gonna be devastating, but in a theatrical, fun, vampire kind of way, as we've come to expect from the Théâtre des Vampires. Alright, well, let's try not to explode into a pool of blood before next episode. I'll see you next time, under the moonlight. Bye bye.